Good evening and welcome to MTG-Profits. This is episode number 18. I'm your host, Devin, and as always, I'm joined by Andy.
Hey, everybody.
And it's both of us back in action today. Andy had to carry the torch all by himself last week.
Yes, you were off in exile, I guess. But
I had been removed from the battlefield. So nothing too bad. I was just traveling, so nothing too crazy. But now I'm back, ready to own as usual.
back to the battlefield. I think
Exactly.
there's only, is there one card that can bring something back from exile?
Oh gosh, I guess there's a couple that can be played from exile. The new Squee comes to mind. There's that Swan that comes back from exile. Um, I'm not sure. There's a couple of things.
Yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking of things that'll, to bring a card back from exile.
I almost feel they use the exile mechanic a little bit too flagrantly in the last, I would say, almost 5 years. Like historically, exiling a card was kind of a big deal. It was somewhat hard
Yeah.
to do,
Yep.
and it was a rare occurrence when your card was exiled. And but now it seems like very frequently, like there are cards that just exile, exile target permanent or exile target creature. It seems like it's almost too much exiling in my personal opinion.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be a lot more exile. But then again, I mean, we've got a lot more things that's the only way to deal with some things. Like
Yeah,
it comes to mind as like all those gods, the Porphyros and everything
yeah, the
else.
indestructible. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you
But
do against that?
I feel that's sort of part of their appeal, though, is that they're so hard to get rid of, and they take a little while to get going. They're not like, you're not dropping them on turn 3 and swinging with them. It takes till like turn 6 before they can be used or brought to bear. So I don't know. I feel they're relatively balanced. I
I
almost
don't
think
know.
that the
Those guys are pretty powerful. You need to have some sort of answers.
yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't know. I still feel there's too much exiling going on.
I agree, though. I think in the general, there's too much in the exile.
I enjoyed the flavor of exile being a powerful effect. Like, whoa,
Yeah,
I'm removing your creature from the game. There's
yeah,
nothing to be
yeah.
done about that. So, and now I almost feel like they're gonna start to explore that space, the exiled space. And now,
Exactly. Sure.
they'll be like, oh, this can remove this creature from exile, or it can bring it back, or this removes a card from exile, puts it in your graveyard. Uh-oh, I see a lot of bullshit with that. So,
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm surprised that hasn't gotten more attention. But
I kind of hope it doesn't. Again, it's nice to have you know, that very solid, this card is not coming back kind of,
well, but that's the thing. It's like everything that has a rule, there's something that'll break that rule.
yeah.
So sooner or later.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
like
when they run out of ideas again.
exactly, exactly. Well, you remember? I'm trying to remember the name. There's a couple of these cards in. Gosh, what was it in? Was it in the whole what was the gods? Oh, the Theros, I guess, block, where it was
Mhm.
like creatures your opponents control with hexproof lose hexproof.
Oh, yes,
There was a
yeah, there's
few of
the
them that did.
lighthouse or whatever does that.
There
Yeah.
was a couple that did similar things.
Yeah.
Oh, guess what? You get rid of hexproof.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right, though. I mean, it's odd to have these spaces be unexplored, but I guess as the keywords become more common, then it allows for those spaces to be explored.
Yeah.
So the exiled space or the hexproof, which typically hasn't been messed with. So I don't know.
I don't know.
I,
I think we should go back to Barry as a mechanic.
it was
Back to dark banishing, baby.
It's funny, but when was the last time you saw regeneration? I think they've done away with regeneration as a keyword. I believe that I read that at some point months ago that there's no more regeneration. They're trying to move away from that as a keyword mechanic.
I think that sounds familiar. I think I
Yeah,
saw that too. Yeah.
it's kind of a shame, and the berry was a way to get around regeneration. Now it
Yep.
seems like they're like, well, we won't have regeneration. We'll just have exile, but now we'll mess around with the exiled space instead. I think
Yeah,
it's kind
sure.
of a dumb way to go, really. But But
Uh,
actually, regeneration was not a bad mechanic. I don't know why. I think they started to get rid of it because the regeneration shields and the BS that would happen associated with that.
exactly. It once again became more complicated, and it was just easier to get
Became
rid of it, I
cumbersome.
guess.
Yeah, I guess they were like, this is stupid, and our rules are unfortunately unable to actually fix the stupid problem that we created by having regeneration shields. So, you know,
Yeah.
when they changed the way the regeneration worked, I think that was problematic. So, and because the rules fail to fix it, they just said we just won't print any more regeneration. So,
Yeah, we're
it's
just
kind
done
of
with it.
yeah, it's kind of a weak way to fix a problem that they
Well, we'll
created.
just kind of ignore it. So that'll
you
do.
know. So it's kind of an annoying thing.
I don't know, but there's been a lot of little cases I feel like that where the rules just didn't really make sense, like as far as the actual play or even thematically, and just
Yeah.
other weird things that I guess you wouldn't necessarily think logically that's how it would work.
And that's I think one of the largest weaknesses of the game. That and mana screw and mana flood.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
I think you're right. Like the rules were made in such a way, but as they explore more spaces that haven't been explored before, not artistically, but creatively, they run into problems where you're sitting here thinking, I don't know how many times I've been sitting here playing a game thinking, well, that totally defeats the spirit of the card.
Yeah.
While technically that may be true, it seems to get around what they were essentially trying to do. And I feel that's kind of unfortunate, because I'm sure you've been on the end of something like that where you're like, wow, this is really cheesy the way this is being broken,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you remember I play with Scott, so
So I know you felt
I have
some
my
funny
full
things.
full meal of cheese every time.
Exactly. Yeah, you were force-fed government style,
Exactly.
large quantity
Those
Velveeta.
highly
Yeah.
premium
Yeah, I
classic.
think he's a big fan of the Velveeta too.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah, this is true.
it's I guess it only stands to reason.
What was that? I was trying to remember. Was there some silliness too with Death Touch or something, and that changed?
I think it
Where
was the Death Touch plus Trample made a huge
exactly Death
problem. Where it
Touch and
was like,
Trample,
oh,
where if it was like,
I could tap one creature for 1 point of damage, and all the rest of my damage would trample through because of the Death Touch or something like that.
yeah, it was something silly like that. I
Yeah,
was
I thought
like,
that was a dumb
really?
change.
Like,
Yeah. Again, that sort of defeats the spirit of the rules and mechanics, I think. If you have a 5/5 creature that blocks a 6/6 trample, the trampler shouldn't be able to tap for 1 and then trample through for 5.
exactly.
Again, it just defeats the spirit of the cards
Yeah,
the way they should be used, in my opinion, my humble opinion. I think that's
yeah.
a dumb, broken thing.
No, I agree with that one.
It just again, that seems like no, you should still have to trample that whole 5 points, instead of
Yeah.
I'm gonna just trample 1 and all the rest you get to the face. So
Yeah,
it's cheesy
exactly.
and again, not in the spirit of the game. But
Yeah. And what was that other thing? So this was even farther back with Legends, where it was like, well, you can only have one of a legend on the battlefield.
yeah, the legend rule, and that's still in
Yeah.
effect though, correct?
Well,
Yeah,
no,
you have to.
that changed somewhat though. I
Oh,
think.
you're right. Before both would be removed, I think, from the game.
Yeah,
Now,
now I think both.
you-
If your opponent played the same legend, it was still okay.
ooh, no, it hasn't been that way for quite some time. I know since at least the time of the Cobblade decks with Jace the Mind Sculptor when he was standard legal, and the all those blade of fire and ice, not fire and ice, the blade, the Phyrexian blades, and
Yeah,
the that hawk that would come out and bring more hawks. I
yeah,
remember
the
even
Squadron
then,
Hawk.
yeah, even then the legend rule at current where when one legend hit the board, if both of us had Jace out, or if he had Jace out, I could drop my own Jace to bury his Jace. So I think that has changed since then. I think now we can both have our own Jaces out.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we both have our own,
Yeah.
both have our own Jaces.
So that's changed a couple of times. I think the originally it was like they annihilated each other. They would all die. And then they
Yeah.
changed it so that only the most recent would live. And now they've changed it again so that anyone can have their own legends, and
Exactly.
they
Yep.
if they bring out another one, they get to choose which one dies.
Yep.
So, so they've had to change that a couple of times. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you still also sort of related if you played, Jace the Mind Sculptor and then played another Jace, that was okay too.
They've gone back and forth on that too.
Like a
So,
Jace with a different name.
yeah,
Jace
yeah,
the Cunning Castaway. You can actually now have both.
yes, that is correct. But at one point, when you could not.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. Now they're all individual, unique, legendary cards.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, again, I understand they have to change things over time, but some of the things again seem better than others. But I particularly dislike when the spirit of the card and what they should do seems to be circumvented by some funny rules issue. I feel that's frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't know. And that all I think it also impacts the players, especially casual or newer players. I mean, how are you going to understand all these, minor rules? And I don't know. I
Yeah,
think it makes it more
uh,
difficult.
I think so. Although I actually think that the advent and continued use of things like Arena is going to help with some of that stuff because,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it makes it easier to learn these things, and it sort of shows you how, it doesn't really show you, but you learn as you go with those sorts of things. So, speaking of the Arena, I saw an interesting thing. I can't remember if we discussed this, but I think we talked about the MTGO and how the value of the cards are dropping relatively quickly. I saw
Yeah, going
an
down.
article about in
Yep.
less than 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, to buy a complete play set of every card on MTG Online was 29,000 US dollars.
Yep.
And as of December 2018, it's down to 13,000. So
Yeah.
the precipitous drop there. So
Huge drop.
yeah, and I think it's because of the arena and other things and the way they've changed the redemption. They've shortened the
Yep.
window and those sorts of things. So I think it almost goes without saying. I hate to say it, but people that have large MTGO collections should probably consider getting the hell out, at least for any high dollar cards. It's one
Yes.
thing if you are continuing to play it and enjoy but it's another when it comes to a value proposition. It's time to I would say jump ship. I have sold all of my high dollar MTGO things. I've done it many months ago, and I didn't have a lot. I think I got like $57 or something.
Sure.
So we're not talking hundreds or thousands of dollars. I really feel bad for people that have thousands of dollars here because I'm fearful that Magic won't do anything to transition those people over in any meaningful way to Magic
I
Arena.
I would I would share that concern. I don't think they would do any sort of
Yeah.
transition or I don't know
I think
redemption or anything like that.
it's unfortunate, but I think what they'll do is they'll continue supporting it until such a time when so few people use it that it effectively becomes a useless platform.
Yeah,
And then by supporting it, they won't have to transition people over. They'll just wait for the platform to die.
exactly. Have a
So,
natural death. Ugh.
yeah. So I'm afraid that I'm afraid that is a very that's a money pit at this point. So be
I
careful.
agree. Although I'm trying to recall kind of Wizards statements on that. I want to say that kind of their I don't know what they stated for the future for MTGO was more that playing up the fact that there would be many different formats that you could play on that. So that it was you have like the
Yeah.
cube format and a couple different other new ones, and